You're watching a clip from the Club podcast.
Make sure you follow it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review.
So here you go, is a lovely clip from our podcast.
Antonio Conte has left Tottenham Hotspur. This is our reaction from that. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, Tottenham Hotspur as an institution are embarrassing. I'm sorry. I still love Conte. I love any manager that can win things, in despite of the Juventus domination. He was able to win with Inter Milan. He was able to get Juventus back to winning things almost 10 years ago. What he did with Chelsea. This guy is an elite level manager. He's world class. He's got an unbelievable winning mentality. And then he goes to Tottenham Hotspur. It's like me hitting on Margot Robbie. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You could have foreseen this ages ago. Now, I think the debate for Tottenham at the time with Conte coming in, I actually thought it was a very, very good appointment. What can you say? Nuno Espirito Santo, just got Wolves at the Championship to Conte. It's unbelievable. It works in the sense that if Tottenham have a squad in their prime, if Tottenham have they have 400, 500 million quid that they can throw at the squad that is needed, like a Man United level kind of investment. And they didn't have that. You're talking about 34-year-old Perisic coming in. You're talking about Richarlison that, despite the kind of interest of someone like Richarlison, who's always a squad player, he wasn't able to sign those kind of 60, 70 million quid. He needs a couple of centre-backs. He needs a new goalkeeper. He needs new midfielders. And Conte wasn't able to do that in the 2-year kind of stretch where he usually stays at a club for 2 years. He does a very intense spell. He gets them very, very fit. And Tottenham Hotspur, off the back of some really, really mediocre performances. I think the biggest issue, if I was a Spurs fan, is they're still fourth in the league. It's not like they're 10th. They're not as bad as Chelsea, but the way they lost in the Champions League is boring. It's drab. I think especially Tottenham Hotspur, they're so interested in their Beyoncés, their Lady Gagas, their Justin Biebers coming to the stadium, the brand new stadium, and entertaining fans. The biggest sin that, whatever you say about Conte, he wasn't able to get a tune out of this Tottenham Hotspur side to make them interesting, to make them fun. For me, that's down to a lack of quality investment. Not every club can be Man City, but Tottenham are trying to, if you bring in someone like Conte, you've got to back him up. If you bring in like Mourinho, you've got to back him up. And these are two back-to-back managers now of prestige, of massive football esteem, and they've struggled. Later in the video, Adam and Rory are going to give their opinions, but this is just my sort of rough take on it. I think he'll go back to Italy. He'll learn how to win again. He'll feel that winning sensation that is so non-present at Tottenham Hotspur. 2 League Cups in 20 years. It's going to be 2 League Cups in 30 years, in my opinion. Absolutely embarrassing. Tottenham Hotspur, where do they go from here? Look, if I'm a Tottenham fan, they remind me a lot of Man City, the second or the third biggest club in your own city, a little bit smaller, a little bit more of an intenser, smaller fan base. If I'm a Tottenham fan, I'm desperate for Pochettino right now. He comes back, he gets the youth going, he gets the club excited, the fans are on side. He's obviously still got a squad that is, still got Harry Kane, Son. You got players like, Bentancur, still fantastic players. They're at Spurs. And with someone like Pochettino, you could gamble with a few more younger players. You could gamble with him being able to maybe even get someone like a Jed Spence into the squad, a slightly cheaper alternative to having to go out and get another 50 million quid right back, for example. For me, Pochettino brings the energy of the club up. He brings the love factor back to being a Spurs fan if I was a Spurs fan. So that's where I would go. And just quickly on Antonio Conte, unfortunately, there are a lack of clubs out there that can give him what you want. That's why he's gone to Spurs. Otherwise, he would have stayed at Inter Milan. They couldn't really afford the money needed to keep someone like Conte, keep him interested, keep his squad galvanised. You'll probably go back to Juventus. You might have a go at international football in the mid to long term as well. Maybe go back to Italy as an example after the next tournament. He'll be fine. He'll win things again. The Tottenham curse. Look at Jose Mourinho. One season out of Tottenham, and he's winning stuff at Roma, and Roma haven't won anything in 15, 20 years. So even Ndombele goes to Napoli. He's coming off the bench. He's going to win. He's going to win the league in Italy. Ndombele. So this Spurs curse. Thank God I don't live anywhere near North London. I'm so far away from the loser curse that is Tottenham Hotspur. Antonio Conte will be fine. And I do think, all gas aside, I do think Tottenham Hotspur will be okay if they can bring back more of a humble, hungrier manager. I think Pochettino will be, especially after the disappointment in Paris. So for me, fair play to Tottenham. They realise what they are. They're not a Conte side. They need to be a little bit more humble and realise that 2 League Cups after 20 years is exactly who they are. Right, I'm interested to see what the lads think. Here are Rory and Adam's thoughts.
So shock horror, it's all ended in tears at White Hart Lane or Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whatever you want to call it. And I hate to say I told you so. I told you it would all end in tears with Antonio Conte. Everybody was telling me at the time, Manchester United have missed out on Antonio Conte. They should have got Antonio Conte. He's a winner. They'll get top four, this, that, and the other. And I said, no. I don't want Antonio Conte anywhere near our club. If he comes to Manchester United, the football is going to be awful. It's all going to end in tears. He's going to be calling out the board. And you'll see what eventually happens is what happened at Tottenham Hotspur. It was so obvious. That interview was hilarious. And he was basically going out there in front of the world's press saying, go on, sack me. I dare you to sack me. And that's what's happened at Tottenham Hotspur. And it's not a surprise to anybody. It's not a surprise to anybody. Now, Rory's going to run around and say, oh, Adam, it would have been different at Manchester United. He would have won things, this, that, and the other. It wouldn't have. Look at what Eric Ten Hag has to deal with in terms of still with the Glazers. We got Wout Weghorst in, alone from Burnley. Can you imagine what Antonio Conte would be saying about that in his press conferences? Can you imagine? He's already gone out and called Spurs losers and said that everyone at the club in the last 20 years, they've been losers. And what do you think he would have gone mad at Manchester United, and he would have been calling out the Glazers left, right and centre. And it would have been an ugly, ugly sight. A sight that you're now seeing at Tottenham. Well, not anymore because he's gone. Where do they go next? Probably back to Pochettino. But personally, I'm not so sure that one happens because there's a reason Pochettino left Tottenham Hotspur. There's a reason him and the board eventually didn't see eye to eye at the end. A lot of the players that were there, some of them are still there, the ones that maybe got him sacked. I'm not so sure that one actually happens. Now, of course, Pochettino could be tempted by a return to the Premier League. The Manchester United job's now gone. It doesn't look like there's going to be a job available anywhere else. And would he come into consideration? So maybe it'd be the perfect opportunity for him to rebuild his name. But nevertheless, I still think he could get some huge jobs around Europe. And it's not quite as much of a dead cert as people are making out. Although, if I was a Spurs fan, it would be the one that I'd want. What other coaches are out there? You try the Mourinho and Conte thing and saying, these lot of winners, they're going to come in and make everybody else winners. That's not going to happen. Spurs eventually made them Spursy. So, I don't know. It's going to be mad for Spurs next season, though. Probably, possibly, no Harry Kane. And a new manager as well. And a whole change there. So, yeah. But, hate to say I told you so. Conte's gone. He's pulling his wig off. And Rory is in the mud again.
Members of the club, I hope you're well. Thank you for tuning into this video. We're obviously talking about Antonio Conte. I don't know if you've noticed, but there is something really weird going on with Antonio Conte and with regard to everything that is being said about him. There seems to be this positioning that Antonio Conte is somehow wrong, somehow incorrect, somehow what he said is being portrayed as being wild and inaccurate, when in actual fact, Antonio Conte has got it all totally and utterly spot on. Everything that Antonio Conte says is accurate. We can question whether he should be saying it. We can have a conversation about whether or not it's his responsibility to portray himself in a different way when he is the public face of Tottenham Hotspur. But to actually analyse what he says, I think he is completely and utterly spot on. Creating alibis for the players. This has done it. The fact that Antonio Conte is going to be leaving has, in fact, created the alibi that Conte was suggesting exists with regards to Tottenham. And where they go from here, I really do not know. They will definitely be downgrading. Antonio Conte is the best manager that they could possibly hope for. He is a borderline elite manager, and I believe that he will go on to win silverware, top tier elite silverware again. For the ramifications on Tottenham, what they need to do is go and try and sign somebody like Thomas Tuchel now. Mauricio Pochettino maybe now. Maybe even Luis Enrique now. But they won't. You know what they're going to do? Ryan Mason. Ryan Mason is going to be back in the dugout at Tottenham Hotspur, and I'm all for it. And listen to this. Antonio Conte is so right. about Tottenham, about Daniel Levy, and everything that he said should be listened to. If I were a Tottenham fan, I would back him. Listen to this stat. Since Daniel Levy has been at Tottenham over the past 20 years, he has employed 10 different permanent managers. Those 10 managers between them, prior to getting to Tottenham, have won 61 trophies. He has hired 10 managers who between them have won 61 trophies. In their time at Tottenham combined, they've won 1 trophy. It cannot be the failing of this level of manager. The problem is Tottenham. The problem is Enoch. The problem is Lewis. The problem is Levy. Viva Antonio.